Hi all, it's Vera again, and I'm just coming in with some cards for Saturn's day in this middle of this eclipse portal, and the day after our, this eclipse corridor, and the day after our 111 portal. And I just thinking about Saturn this morning. I don't know why Saturn, I mean, I do know, but I don't know why Saturn is seen as such a strict and kind of harsh, hardcore planet when Saturn is like the cutest planet you can see with your eye with its little hula hoop. And I see it, maybe it's kind of like a coach, but, with doing its little hula hoop dance. But I think, again, continuing with some themes that I've been tuning into and embodying and navigating in my life too. So I wanted to draw cards for what we have to draw upon as embodied creatures and within the embodiment that is the matrix here of our earth and everything that is materially around us, what we have to draw on from that, and then also what is the energy that we have to draw on. And I'm thinking, and then I'm going to go on with a couple of other things. But so for Saturn, like what are the resources that we have as we move through these so vibrant and sacred times? And I was shuffling and cutting and working with this deck, the Happy Tarot, for that embodiment. I decided to use the Happy Tarot. And then at one point I just pulled the deck apart, just because I was like, oh, I'm overthinking even like how many times I'm going to shuffle and how many, I want to encourage us all to let go of overthinking. Like, again, as I said on Instagram the other day, this is a year of this. We do not have to push ourselves. So we can rest in what we've already accomplished, in what we already have, and where we already are, even if it seems like it's not enough or not that much, or you feel like you're an amateur, or you feel like you're bored, or just we can rest, especially in this eclipse quarter. I'm feeling, because I'm going through things where I'm thinking of changing the ways that I make a living, and or expanding them, and realizing, I don't need to make a huge change necessarily or think of it as a huge change, but like progress, from from the depths of what I already have accomplished and have made and have gained and have learned. And okay, so what opened was the Sun and the Seven of Pentacles. So you're really asked to bask in knowing all you've done. Think of all you've done, all the things you've done to help other people, all the things you've done just to maintain yourself, all the things that you've learned, all the things, everything you've contributed. Okay. And then you are like it's your heart, it's your body. You are this shining flow of embodiment, and sometimes embodiment, it seems, I'm getting the word dry, but also just like, you think of a rock, and we're taught, or at least in my culture, I was taught to think of rocks. I remember my oldest was in kindergarten, and they were telling her, they had them making lists of what was alive and not alive, and rocks were supposed to be on the not alive list, and also like, why were they spending their time making lists of what was alive and not alive? I had to question it. Here's a little rock I have right here, companion. So we are, I didn't mean to mumble, that's a little rock that's one of my companions that's been around with me for quite some time, picked up on one of my favorite beaches. Anyway, I should probably name her. Maybe her name's Sheila. We can, be throned in as part of the self-sovereignty. It's not intellectual. It's not even necessarily spiritual. It is embodied. We can rest in it. It is our physicality, okay? Not to separate those things either, you know. But just for me at least, there is definitely something about, I talked yesterday a lot with the divine feminine stuff that I was talking about like feeling safe and grounded and whole in being fully present in your embodiment, which is an expression of the imagination of your soul's true shape. Okay, and so just resting in that and knowing that all of you that you've accomplished is not only enough, it's more than enough, it's amazing, and it will serve you going into these next times as we are moving in these times. Okay, and then for the energy, okay, the Page of Wands. So it's this ability to always be beginning anew. Like just as you wake up each day, maybe if you know you're just tired and you can't, and you're like, oh, why? You know, but this initiatory energy that is yours to glory in and to draw upon and is you, you know. The Ascension journals yesterday posted, I saw that right after I had posted mine, talking about, you know, how scary and strange, sort of disorienting it might be to come into this world, even to come into your mother's womb as a spirit and then to come into this world. And I remember that feeling too of like just the hormones like recalibrating after giving birth, even like, or just coming, you know, getting off an airplane, maybe even sometimes, or going up in an airplane. But just that kind of like, oh, that body feeling of like, oh my God, like, and then having to get used to it, or going to a new altitude, you know, and how that can be so, you know, disorienting and almost painful, like just really kind of just upsetting and hard to get your equilibrium. She talked a lot yesterday about, you know, our memories age 3 to like conception, that range. And Kaipacha was also talking a little bit about that on his report this week too. So you might want to look at those. But anyway, that we were brave to come here, and we were happy to come here. We were full of joy. I remember my youngest, after she was born, she, you know, she was tiny in her first weeks of life, and she was just vocalizing. And I felt like, you know, she had been this angel, like singing, you know, in the fields of space, and then had come here and she's like trying out her voice. So you have all of that. You have all of that, and you may rest in it. You may allow yourself to be pulled, and not pulled, that sounds too harsh even, but like the planets are with you, your ancestors are with you, the guides are with you, our imagined characters are with you, we work together. I've been thinking a lot about all these movies coming out now about, you know, 2 female characters and how they are creating together, and how important that is, because we've seen so much of that with male characters. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to go with my mom this afternoon to see Mary, Queen of Scots. So that, I mean, I know they don't get along that well, but the powerful women of Mary and Elizabeth. But then also, like, did you know that the Pueblo people of, you know, their lands are now in what's considered New Mexico, but by some, and they have these 2 goddesses called, oh, now I can't think of them, but there's one yellow woman, and then there's listening woman. But I wrote a poem once, and it said listening and her sister. And so again, just continuing from some of the themes from yesterday's reading, and then the one I referred to in yesterday's reading, but from back in November, right before that 11/11 portal that I did on the rebirth of Venus, and resting in our power as women of that powerfulness of that receptivity, and not only just us as women, like separating out into a certain group, although that is true, and some of us have similar experiences and where we resonate in similar experiences, we simply do resonate in similar experiences. Like I could talk to anyone who has given birth, anyone who has nursed a child. You know, we have this similar experience of being embodied, of being, you know, in a culture that sees that in this or that way. But that doesn't limit what the divine feminine is. I mean, every single being and molecule of air, as far as I'm concerned, has some of the spirit of the divine feminine in it. So, and I think of, you know, what my nephew had lost even at the moment of birth, and crawling up to nurse from his dear mother, and like what he'd lost by the suppression of the divine feminine, and that imbalance and that wonkiness of the way the masculine and feminine have been expected to relate to each other, or inclined or forced to relate to each other under patriarchy. And how, you know, Kaipata says time is a test of truth. What is truth will last through time. What is true will last through time. That is why the patriarchy is coming to an end. I love that quote of his, because that to me relates to this sense of divine love and divine union, and what that power of unconditional love is, because it morphs and dissolves, you know, it morphs and dissolves structures that are not true, structures that are not true to the alignment and space for the joyous integrity, dreaminess, and hope of all of us living together within our soul's true shape, and the joyous singing that might come from that. You should not have to fight too hard. You should not have to be too strong. I was talking to a friend the other day about, you know, just the awfulness of what she'd had to live through, and just amazing what people go through in this world. And we should be allowed to rest and to create from joy, and to follow our own hearts. As the Pythia Oracle of Delphi say, make your own nature, not the advice of others, your guide in life. But how that, you know, means, how that works too with us all being in it together. I got the 7 of Pentacles again from What's Being Transformed. I wanted to pull from the Rider-Waite, the old one, for What's Being Transformed now. And it's the way we consider our value and the way we consider our achievements. We don't have to hold too tightly onto them or lord anything over anyone else, or feel like we haven't done enough, or feel like we don't look good enough in our career, or feel like whatever. We may rest in the accomplishment of how far we have come, dear ones, and how we are now moving forward together.